Hey everyone, welcome to the Commissioners Clubhouse and the LCC Network for part 2 of Wildcard Weekend. Like we talked about in the first episode, this is going to be truly wild the next couple of days. No pun intended there, but it's just the truth. Jameson, what's going on, man?
Hey, yeah, I'm excited. I am so excited for all the playoff stuff we get to talk about. Today's episode is going to be fantasy MVPs. So these are the players that we think are the most likely to carry teams through the playoffs. After that, we've got the playoff game previews. We've got a lot of history with those games. We've got point projections for those games. So that's exciting. And then at the very end, we've got our bracket preview. So just like March Madness, we're going to kind of just briefly talk through our brackets and kind of have a projections and predictions about who's going to win it all before we even get into the playoffs. So yeah, man, are you ready? I'm ready to go. I'm stoked.
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Cool. So fantasy MVPs is something we want to talk about. This is something that normally we do on the reactive side, on the back end. When we get done, we're like, oh, who was the best player? This year we wanted to kind of predict that going into it. And so we broke it down by position. We each picked one player, right? One player from each position. So if you want to go into it, we'll start with quarterbacks. We'll kind of work our way down. So if you want to jump into it first, go ahead and do that.
Yeah, so my pick, some people are going to say, oh, well, that's just too obvious. Why would you even bother? Well, it's just because it's the damn truth. Pat Mahomes, without a doubt, has been the best fantasy quarterback this year, and I don't see him slowing down in the postseason. Look at some of the matchups he's got. Yeah. There are types of games where the Chiefs are going to have to keep putting up a lot of points. They're going to have to throw in the football. Pat Mahomes is going to have to keep doing his thing. I like Pat Mahomes, man. I really like him, especially for Cody. He's the only team that has Pat Mahomes, so it really only applies to him. But I think Pat Mahomes might be the difference maker in Cody going deep or Cody possibly losing in the wild card or divisional round or any time in the playoffs. I mean, Pat Mahomes will be that difference maker going into the season, I feel like. And I really like his capability, especially because the Chiefs have to score. Their defense isn't that great. You know, they're not a team that can rely on their defense to win a ball game. So Pat Mahomes is going to have to be that cowbell for him, and it's going to be a cowbell, I feel like, for Cody as well.
Yeah, Pat Mahomes, he's averaging 51 points per game this season.
That's phenomenal.
51 points per game. And he's got great matchups. The Baltimore one is kind of meh, but even in an okay game, he's still going to give you 45 points. But Oakland twice, the Chargers, the Seattle. I mean, he's going to. I agree. I like that pick a lot. I actually was leaning that way a little bit earlier, but I ended up going with a different quarterback, one that I've railed against all season long, Mitch Trubisky as my QB MVP through the playoffs. I like the matchup a lot. Old Mitch. They've got the Giants this week, then they've got the Rams, and then the Packers, and then the Niners. And so, I mean, they're either going to be smoking teams like the Giants and the Niners, or they're going to be playing in a shootout like the Packers and the Rams. He's a super athletic quarterback. He gets a lot of points rushing, which I think is one thing I wasn't predicting when I railed on him so hard earlier. But I like him a lot through the playoffs. And if you've got him, I'm not sure who has it. It might be Cody as well, if I'm not mistaken. Let me double check this real quick. I
thought he had Drew Brees. Cody did.
Maybe I'm wrong then. It might be Hunter.
No, Mitch Trubisky is Hunter. Hunter has him.
Yeah, so Hunter's got Mitch Trubisky.
I was going to say, fun fact about Trubisky is the 17th highest scorer in fantasy. That means he's outscored guys like Kareem Hunt, James Conner, Phillip Rivers, Russell Wilson, Tyreek Hill, Tom Brady, Corey Littleton, Adam Thielen, Derwin James. I mean, Kiko Alonso. He's put up some good points, man, to say the least. Even for quarterbacks, he's one of the elite fantasy quarterbacks. So I don't blame you picking him.
Yeah, that's a little surprising, but yeah, he's been great. So if you've got him, I think he's worth starting through the fantasy playoffs. Running backs, I'll go ahead and start here. And I know it's not just because I have him, but I've got Sony Michel here. When he's healthy, some of the games that he's played in where he actually played the entire game, 34, 44, 42, 43. So those are games where he had the majority of The snaps, he was healthy. Other games, he came in or went out early because of injury. When he plays an entire game, he is a monster, and his matchups are awesome. They've got Minnesota's a little iffy, but the Patriots are always playing from ahead. Miami, Pittsburgh, and then Buffalo in Week 16. I like Sonny Michel a lot if he can stay healthy. He's been a target monster near the goal line. Not as much in the receiving game as people thought he would, but he's still, again, 34-point minimum when he plays an entire game and receives most of the snaps. So I like him a lot. I'm not sure who has him in the other conference, but if you've got him.
Sorry, never mind. I was about to say Michael. I don't know what I'm thinking. Sorry.
Yeah, that wouldn't work. That is not possible. So who do you have as your running back fantasy MVP?
So I know this is gonna bother Isaac so much. Christian McCaffrey is my running back MVP of the playoffs. And I know the other conference, that's what I said Michael was looking ahead. Michael has him, so he's totally irrelevant in the other conference, in the Top Shotters conference. In our conference, the Elite 12, Eastside Brawlers has him. That's my dad, John. Christian McCaffrey averaging 39.5 points a game right now. That means he's averaging more than Ezekiel Elliott. That means he's averaging more than Alvin Kamara. He's averaging more than Adam Thielen, averaging more than Melvin Gordon, averaging more than James Conner. The man is legit. I know people diss him all the time. They're saying he's going to get shut down eventually. But, hey, as long as the Panthers defense sucks, which they do suck, Christian McCaffrey is going to be the baller of the Carolina Panthers and is going to be a running back baller for sure in this playoffs. He's actually the highest ranked running back in our conference for the playoffs in terms of points scored, because the only other two running backs have outscored him, period, has been Todd Gurley, who's averaging 44 points a game, and Saquon Barkley, who's averaging 40. So not much of a difference between Christian McCaffrey and Saquon and Jared Goff, and that's saying a lot. That is saying a ton. And I think Christian McCaffrey, like I said for Pat Mahomes for Cody, Christian McCaffrey will make or break Eastside Brawler's playoff run for sure. I mean, he's either going to win his playoff games because of him, or he's going to lose them because of him. It's going to be one or the other. But like I said, I just don't see Christian McCaffrey slowing down. Especially when you look at last week, he scored 77 points, and 2 weeks ago he scored 61. So I'm sorry, Christian McCaffrey is my boy.
No, I agree. I like the McCaffrey pick. I think he will be game planned for a little bit more moving forward. But I saw an article on ESPN today about how there's an idea that Christian McCaffrey may be the most valuable fantasy running back because he's more of a dual threat than anybody. Todd Gurley, Saquon, he's never ever game scripted out. He catches touchdowns, runs them. That he's so involved that just by volume alone, he's a top 3 running back. So that's a pretty interesting concept. And for a small guy, I mean, he stayed really healthy. He avoids a lot of the big hits and has done really well there. The Panthers overall have a really favorable fantasy matchup through the playoffs. So my receiver, I went with DJ Moore, also the Carolina Panthers, also owned by Eastside Brawlers. So Isaac might not like that
and
either.
Your team, man. Don't forget about that.
And
give me more.
I don't have DJ Moore.
I know, but I'm just saying that's what you name your team after.
Oh, yeah. Because, it was all about the Benjamin, and then KB went to Buffalo because he was fat and slow, and so I needed to change my team name. I didn't want to represent that. So, DJ Moore.
I didn't want to represent that.
Here's his playoff, here's the matchups throughout the playoffs. Tampa Bay, the 26th pass defense. Cleveland, 28th pass defense. New Orleans, the 29th pass defense. And Atlanta, the 25th pass defense through the rest of the season. So he has clearly taken over the number 1 for the Carolina Panthers. Devin Funchess has been hurt. He hasn't been involved when he's been on the field. And if you saw the Detroit game, he can't catch the football anymore. I don't know who watched that game, but I swear I could have caught more passes than Devin Funchess in that game. It was awful. DJ Moore is the new number 1 for that team. And I would not.
I think he's going to remain that way.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I wouldn't be. I mean, he's really. You've seen it come on the last few weeks. I wouldn't be surprised if he averages 32 points a week over the playoffs. So I'd be really confident if I had DJ Moore.
No, I would. I think. I don't know. It's weird that you said that because before we started this, like I think it was 2 days ago, in my other fantasy league, I went and picked him up off free agency, and I'm starting him. Even though my game means nothing in that league, so I've been eliminated from the playoffs. But still, he's a solid guy to keep for next year. He's going to be good the playoffs. I think, like you said, he's their number one guy, and Cam Newton's going to have to throw that football for the Panthers to be relevant.
Yep, definitely. Well, who do you have as your receiver?
So my receiver is ranked 45th among points for the season. Devontae Adams averaging 31.2 points a game. This is another one that some people say, oh, man, that's kind of obvious. Well, again, he's 45th, and there's a ton of receivers that are ranked ahead of him, actually, which is somewhat surprising. And here's the reason why he is my MVP over a guy, let's say, like I don't know, like Julio Jones or Tyreek Hill or something like that. The Packers are on the thin edge of just being straight done. And with as bad as the Packers have been this year, Aaron Rodgers is going to have to keep kind of the same situation as the Panthers. He's got to keep throwing that football for them to win games. He's got to get the ball to Devontae Adams, their best receiver on the field week in and week out. And I just don't. Devontae Adams is still putting up points when he's been double covered. Single coverage, same thing, doesn't matter. This guy's legitimate. Obviously, we've known that for a while, but I really feel comfortable with him being probably one of the highest scoring receivers this postseason. I know, Jameson, you have in our conference. I'm not sure exactly who has in the top shot. Is it maybe a team that's been eliminated already? But I feel, like I said, I just feel really good about his matchups going forward, and the fact that the Packers are going to have to keep throwing that football and feeding it to guys to Devontae. I mean, listen to me, Devontae Adams.
No, yeah, I agree. Like you said, I've got Devontae Adams. So I'm really familiar with how he's done this season. He hasn't had a ton of boom games, but he hasn't busted at all, which is why he's
been consistent.
Dude, so consistent. If you don't have him, you probably don't recognize this, but 27, 28, 25, 23, 42, 55, 25, 23, 35, 36, 24. Never scored less than 23 points in a game and fantasy points in a game. He has at least 80 yards or a touchdown every single week this season. He's got one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time throwing to him, and there are no other receivers on the team. MVS has disappeared. Equanimous Brown has drop issues. I mean, he's the guy, and they have a pretty favorable schedule outside of Chicago in Week 15 when they have to go there. But no, I like him a lot. He was actually one of the guys I was looking at too, so I completely agree with that.
Well, sorry, it's Abortion Clinic that has him in the other conference. He's obviously in the playoffs, so yeah. I mean, that kind of says something too. I mean, he's on two different playoff teams in our league, so I think that just shows you Devontae Adams is a consistent, well-rounded fantasy receiver to have, and I think he's going to be one of the better ones the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. Speaking of guys that are in both conferences, J.J. Watt is my defensive line fantasy MVP, and I know that might seem kind of obvious, but I mean, this is a guy that's done nothing for the last 2 years, and he's been on fire this season and won another Defensive Player of the Week award last week. He is averaging 31 points a game this season. If you can get 31 points from your defensive line, you are solid. In that regard, he hasn't busted since Week 7. He's only had one game where he had single digit production. Not many defensive linemen this season have done that. And I think he's got a pretty favorable schedule: Cleveland, Indy, and then the Jets for the next 3 weeks of the playoffs. I mean, those are all teams that give up sacks, maybe not the most, but certainly not the least. The Jets, rookie quarterback; Cleveland, a rookie quarterback; Indy, an offensive line that's been kind of iffy. They've got a couple injuries. J.J. Watt, I like him a lot. And he's owned by Billy and by Daquan. Is it Daquan? Yes, Daquan in the other conference. So again, another player on both conferences in the playoffs.
All right. So, I feel good about that. But listen, my guy, I'm sure everyone's already forgotten about because he hasn't – when I say he hasn't done anything all year, I mean he hasn't played all year up until like a week or two ago. And that's Joey Bosa. And go ahead, grill me for picking my own player here. I think it's Charles that has him in the other conference, so our team didn't make the playoffs. Dude, Joey Bosa, I get it. He put up 33 against the Cardinals, who have a bad O-line. But let's be honest here. Let me tell you some of the other offensive lines he's still got to play. He's got the Steelers. He's got the Bengals. He's got the Ravens. Broncos week 17. That's irrelevant. But he does have the Chiefs in our conference championship week, which is week 15. And again, you're probably saying, well, he's got the Chiefs, dude. Pat Mahomes is like one of the least sacked quarterbacks in the NFL. All right. That's true. Sure. But it's Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram coming on the edge there, dude. It's going to be, I'm telling you, Pat Mahomes may have his hands full in that conference championship. I think he's going to have a good game for fantasy, but I could see him actually getting sacked by one of those two guys. I mean, listen, man, you can't double team both of them, and it's going to be, I'm telling you, Joey Bosa, the next couple weeks, I would not be surprised if within the next, if we don't include week 17, so just 16, 15, 14, 13, I could see him easily between those 4 weeks scoring over 100 points, maybe even like 120 between 4 weeks.
Wow, yeah, that's a decently bold prediction there.
Yeah.
No, I'm okay with that pick. I mean, Bosa, he's on a great defense. He's, Pat Mahomes, I think he can get to him. And the Chiefs have given up more sacks in the last few weeks than they have most of the season. So there's definitely some vulnerability there. Joey Bosa, it's not like he's tired. He hasn't played all season, so he should be fresh.
Man. He's fresh.
So I'm okay with that. Out for blood. I've got Kiko Alonso as my linebacker fantasy MVP through the playoffs, owned by Jade. I'm not sure who in the other conference, but he has kind of cooled off a little bit lately. But he's got teams that want to run the ball, or at least teams that are going to be throwing a short flow. Even if they don't run, they're dumping the ball off a lot. The Patriots are going to try to run. They're going to get up earlier with the Dolphins. They're going to run a lot over the next 2 weeks. And you said yesterday Kiko is what, like the top 3 linebacker or a top 5 linebacker?
Top 3.
Yeah, top 3 linebacker. So, I mean, he's definitely had a lot of value this season. He's averaging 34 points a game. So if you've got Kiko, I mean, I'd be excited to fire him up. But I think he's gonna have a great playoff run.
Now, I like the Kiko pick. I mean, Kiko Alonso, you're right. I mean, he's cooled off a little bit here at the end of the season, been a little inconsistent. But I'd still leave him plugged in your starting lineup, if especially for a team like Jay that doesn't have a lot of depth at defense. I think Kiko Alonso could easily be a difference maker for Jade. But my locked and loaded linebacker for this week, my MVP, or not for the week, sorry, for the playoffs, is Leighton Vander Esch. They got the rookie from Boise State, the 6'4", 255 beast of a linebacker that the Cowboys have. I mean, look, I'll put it this way. The dude scored nearly 150 points the past 3 weeks combined. It's nuts. Last week, 33. The week before, 41. The week before that, 67. So you could look at that and say, oh, he's trending downward. But, I mean, listen, man, he's got the Saints this week, a team that's literally going to be just getting that ball all over the field, and Vander Esch is going to have to be there to contain that Saints offense, because we all know they've got some speedsters that can burn them through the middle and through that on the outside. Then he's got the Eagles after that. I could easily see him getting an interception that game with the way Carson Wentz has been playing. Colts after that, again, I could see Vander Esch really just blowing that game up. And then during our little Critter Bowl week 16, he's got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who we all know they can put up points. So with that said, the Cowboys defense is going to be on the field a good bit. And that just gives Vander Esch more time to put up those points. And he's been consistent, man. He scored 354 for the season. He already has 72 tackles. 72 tackles, and we've only played 12 NFL regular season games. For the Cowboys have only played 11, actually. That's crazy. As a rookie linebacker, that's nuts. He has 2 picks. He has 21 assists. He has 7 passes defended. He has 2 tackles for loss. I'm telling you, Vander Esch is not only just a good guy for the playoffs, but he is a good long-term linebacker that both David and Cameron in our conference, I believe, has and can rely on for a long time.
Yeah, 72 tackles and didn't even start most of the games this season. So no, I like that pick a lot. I picked him in the rookie draft, and I've really been kicking myself the last few weeks for letting him go because he has been on fire. He cooled off a little bit, but he was on fire before that. So
I don't even know. Maybe I'm probably wrong about this, but I'm looking at his status in our league in the other conference. I don't think he was even drafted because it says he was a free agent week 1, 2, and 3, and then Abortion Clinic picked him off free agency week 4. I mean, it's like, and he hasn't been starting him. He's only started him 2 weeks out of all the weeks from week 4. He's only started him twice. That's kind of mind-boggling to me, but.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that's how you go 6-6 and barely squeaking the playoffs and not making the right calls. So finally here, I've got for the cornerback or for the DBs, I've got Derwin James as my fantasy MVP. This is the Devontae Adams of defensive backs. Completely consistent, no bust games, a couple boom games, an incredibly impressive rookie that I did target in the rookie draft and couldn't get because Billy jumped in front of me. Just a quick rundown: 25, 42, 52, 41, 21, 25, 28, 27, 32, 35, 45. He's averaging 34 points a game, and he's projected 40 this week. I like Derwin James a lot. I like teams that have Derwin James a lot. Yeah, I'm really impressed with him. I think he's going to have a great game. Great playoff matchup. Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, and Kansas City. 2 of those 3 games, they're going to be airing it out the whole time. And Cincinnati probably will just because they have to keep up with the Chargers. But yeah, I like Derwin James a lot in the fantasy playoffs. Probably one of my favorite picks.
No, I agree with that. I actually wanted to pick that too, but I was like, oh man, if I do that, I look like a copycat. So I didn't do it. No, but my DB is a guy, I feel like, I don't want to say he's flown under the radar, but he kind of has. It's John Johnson. The guy, he's only been in the league 1 year before this. Last year was his rookie year, and he had a good rookie year, I felt like. Not enough to garner a ton of attention. Yeah. By the way, this guy, we're talking about a 3rd-round pick, and the guy's I'm looking at it right now. John Johnson is ranked 12th among DBs. That's safeties and corners combined. He's ranked 12th, averaging just over 30 points a game. And here's why I picked John Johnson. He's again safety for the Los Angeles Rams. That's still weird for me to say, but yeah, here's what I like about him. He's got the Lions this week. We all know Matt Stafford can easily throw picks. John Johnson is a guy who can make those plays. They've got the Chicago Bears, who say what you want about the running game, but their passing game, I believe, is solid considering, and I think that gives John Johnson a lot of opportunity to make plays. And they've got the Eagles and they've got the Cardinals. All those games, I could easily see interceptions in, forced fumbles, turnovers, types of plays that will win Hunter of Champions games in the playoffs. Mike has in our conference, so kind of irrelevant for us. But besides the bowl game that Mike's playing in next week, but Hunter, I feel like this guy is going to be a difference maker for him going forward.
Yeah, no, I like that a lot. He's been incredibly consistent this season. A lot like Derwin James, not as much of the boom, but you're right. He plays on a great defense and can get turnovers, so I like that a lot. He kind of took over LaMarcus Joyner, who I really liked a lot last season, and he kind of took his role and kind of ran with it. So he's been great. Well, that's it for fantasy MVPs. Those are some of the players we predict to have the best fantasy playoffs. So we'll see how that goes. But let's jump right into the playoff game previews. We'll start with a matchup, wild card matchup. Colby, the 6th seed, and Daquan, the 3rd seed. Patrick, what's the history here? That seems to be like your thing. So tell us a little bit about that.
That does seem to be my thing, doesn't it? No,
it definitely is. Like, we like to lean on you for that type of information.
I'm like the Chris Berman or something for fantasy football matchup history or something. No, but obviously we all know that these two teams. Sorry, you said we're starting with the top shotters.
Yeah. We'll start with Colby and
Daquan. Yeah, no, this is a game that I'm really excited for. Again, they've been in the division together a lot over the years. They've also played each other a good bit. Never in the playoffs, though. First time they've ever played in the playoffs. They played each other 5 times over the past 9 years. Daquan has not beaten Colby since 2011 in week 4. Dude, it has been, what is that, 7 years without beating Colby. 7, that is nuts. That's crazy to think about. They've had some they've had some close games over the year. In fact, the first time they played each other's week 2011 in week 4, Daquan won that 161 to 157. Then if you look at 2017 in week 2, Colby ended up winning a very close one, 255 to 254 in a 1-point game. That was really a big game for Colby. I mean, because if you go back and look at it, Daquan, dude only won like 2 or 3 games last year. One of them was against me. He was kind of like the Charles I felt like last year, because I felt like Daquan last year, there were a lot of games that he could have won or was really close to winning, but he just kind of got ripped off, kind of like how Charles was this year. No, I like that matchup because there's a lot of history there. I mean, the dude, they went to high school together. I mean, they know each other like the back of their hand. It's kind of funny. This is actually only the first time they've played each other in Little Critter Bowl history in the postseason. Now, if we go and look at Colby and his playoff history, when you look at his playoff history, it's like every other year he makes the playoffs. This is the first year.
Yeah.
This is the first year that this is the first time he's ever made the playoffs back-to-back years, actually, believe it or not. I think of Colby, I think of a very successful team, a team that's, when he's in the playoffs, he usually goes deep into the playoffs. First Little Critter Bowl champion ever in 2010 when he beat Cameron. Michael Vick led him that year. You look at 2012 when he made the playoffs at 8-4. He was the 3rd seed in the playoffs there. He ended up losing, though, in his first game. I'm trying to figure that out now, who he lost to. I'm pretty sure it was Jade in the 2012 playoffs. Then the next year barely missed the playoffs at 6-6, but in 2015 makes the playoffs at 9-3. When this guy makes the playoffs, usually, I mean, his team's locked and loaded. I mean, he's killing it. But he was, again, the 4th seed, wasn't even a top 2 seed there. He made it all the way to the Little Critter Bowl, not the Little Critter Bowl. He made it to the conference championship back before we split the league into two 12-team conferences. We were a league of 16 back then, so it was conferences of 8 with 2 divisions in each. Throwback right there. Again, that was 2015. Yeah. He ended up beating no, take that back. So Colby ended up winning the conference championship, that's right, against Jade. I remember Jade was so mad that day when he lost to Colby in the conference championship. They ended up losing to Matt in the Little Critter Bowl. Then he fast forward to 2017 last year, won his division. And actually, another fun fact, Colby's never made the playoffs up until this year without winning his division. This is the first time he made the playoffs without winning his division. Last year, he made it into the conference championship and ended up losing. So again, a team that has a lot of success there. When we look at Daquan, he's been a little bit more inconsistent, in my opinion. When you look at what he's done. Oh man, I'm running out of breath over here. But this is, we all know what happened to Daquan last year. 3-9, rough year. And he had like nearly 500 more points scored against him than he scored, which is nuts to think about. But he made the playoffs this year, barely squeaked in by winning his division, thanks to you beating Jordan. And third seed going into the playoffs. He's in a pretty good spot, I feel like. The last time he made the playoffs was 2016. He was a 6th seed, made it at 6-5. Again, that was a weird year. I mean, we only played 11-game regular season that year for some reason. That was really dumb. No, sorry, that was 2016. Yeah. Ended up getting eliminated in the second round of the playoffs. You look at 2014, made the playoffs 8-4. Ended up winning his division that year and was the 3rd seed, again losing in the second round of the playoffs. 2013 made the playoffs 8-4, won his division then, was one and done, even though he's the 1st seed. Crazy to think about. The number 1 seed was 8-4. That's a little strange to me to think about now. And then
we've come a long way these days.
And then 2011, he won his division, was a number 2 seed, and was one and done there in the conference championship. So, I mean, both of these teams have been to the playoffs before. They've both been to the wild card before. It's going to be really fun to watch. I mean, who do you have winning this, Jameson?
So I went through. I'm assuming what I believe to be their lineups, and went player by player and projected points for each of them. And it ended up with Daquan 277 to 273 over Colby. So I have a 4-point favor for Daquan. And I saw that you have a pretty similar line, if I'm not mistaken.
No, mine's actually a 3-point game in favor of Daquan also, which is kind of funny. When you look at the spread, it's not this close. I've got Daquan winning.
It's 13.
Yeah.
Which is pretty close, like in projection-wise.
True.
In our league. I think everybody's expecting this one to be a very close game.
I've got Daquan winning again, 282 to 279. I think that's going to be relative. Well, it's definitely going to be high. It's going to be an above-average scoring game. I'll put it that way. I'm pretty excited to see this game, but I think Daquan will win a close one in their first ever matchup in the playoffs.
Yeah, no, that's going to be a good one. We're already running a little low on time, so we'll do a deep, not as deep a dive as we did with Colby and Daquan, but we've got Cody and David. David's a 4 seed, Cody's the 5. Is there any history between these guys? I know David's only been in the league a few years, right?
David, last year was his first year in the league, and he made the playoffs. He's made the playoffs back-to-back years, and really no one's talking about David, and maybe it's because of how weak his division has been the past 2 years. And he actually lost Cody ended up beating David in week 10 of last year, the only time they played each other, 209 to 151, a very low-scoring game late into the season. Now they're playing each other in the wild card round. The team Cody, I know, is disappointed going from 1st seed to 5th. David's just happy to be here at this point after the way he started. Cody, but again, you're looking at abortion clinic 2 years in a row. Both years he's been in the league, made the playoffs, won his division. Go look at Cody. Last year was only his 2nd time ever making the playoffs. Only the 2nd time he's ever won his division. Did Cody even win his division last year? I need to go check that out real quick. But
I don't think so. I think Colby did.
Yeah,
if they're in the same division.
Yeah, no, they were in the same division last year. So no, you're right about no. Yeah, you're right. Never mind. Sorry. No, Colby ended up winning.
You are all over.
I'm all over the place.
You've got to focus, Patrick. We are professionals. People are expecting a top-notch show.
But it's funny, we're talking about Cody. We've talked about how dominant he is all year. He actually has the same exact record as he did last year going to the playoffs, 8-4. And has the exact same seed as he had last year, the 5th seed. So maybe it's a sign of things to come. Maybe Cody's going to go down the exact same path that he did last year and take the conference by storm and take the league by storm. Ultimately, though, I'll go ahead and jump into my breakdown of this game, if you will, or my projections. I think Cody's going to win this. I think it's going to be for our purposes, kind of a wide margin. I think Cody's going to win 289 to 269. And I know, wow, Cody only 289. Some of his matchups, I'm not as crazy about this week. That I think it'll be one of his lower scoring weeks. And I'm not even saying it has anything to do with last week's performance, but I just feel like Cody's going to easily win this still. I just don't think he's going to score as much as he has in the regular season.
Yeah, I've got Cody winning this one 301 to 244. So this is a 57-point spread, in my opinion. Again, this is going player by player. I think Cody's that offense is just going to go ballistic. Pat Mahomes, Conner, Gurley, Cooks, Hopkins. Probably won't get a lot of help from his defense. At least I don't think so based on matchups. But 301 to 244, I mean, you can't argue with that. I don't think this one's going to be very close, unfortunately, for David. So, sorry, man. I know you're here, but you're not favored at all.
No.
Even in projections, I think it's 30-point spread. So that's probably being a little bit nice. But so over to the Elite 12, we've got you and the 6th seed facing Billy in the 3rd seed. You guys played once earlier this season. You played, I think, every year for a couple of years, maybe.
Every year since Billy's been in the league.
Yeah, this is his 3rd year,
yeah.
I think, if I'm not mistaken. 2nd year, something
3rd
like that.
year, yeah.
He's found a little bit of success. Two years in the playoffs, back-to-back. Last year, eliminated by Isaac in the 1st round, if I'm not mistaken. And so I think he's looking to make it past that wild card round this year.
No, I mean, if you look at it, Billy's literally improved each of the 3 years he's been in the league, slightly improved in some way, fashion. 1st year, he was god-awful. No offense, it's just the truth. Last year, he makes the wild card round. Cameron ended up winning the division, getting, I think, the 1st seed or the 2nd seed. I want to say it was the 1st. And then you look at this year, now Billy's won his division at 7-5. Sure, his record's not great, but his team is still really good. I'm still really impressed by his team, what they've done this year. I think me, you, and Isaac had talked about it the preseason. We felt like Billy was one of the stronger teams in that division. But here's the thing. We played each other 3 times. I've won 2 out of the 3, which, again, 2 out of 3, I mean, there's only there's so much statistics to look at there. Last time Billy won was week 9 of last year. He won 300 to 267. I beat him this year in week 5, 258 to 239 in a very low scoring game. Neither one of us have a lot of success in the playoffs, but Billy's only been in the league 3 years, so not much to say on his end. But me, it's kind of embarrassing when I go and look at my playoff history. It is god awful, to say the least. It's just failure, just all over the place. I've only missed the playoffs twice, but I've only won 2 playoff games in the past 9 years I've been in the league. So, and one of them was an embarrassing loss to my wife, Maria, in the conference championship. Literally got smacked around by Le'Veon Bell, and it was, God, I don't even want to think about that.
Let us not forget. Oh, you're going to think about it. I'm going to talk about it. Let us not forget the 90. Was it 91?
It was.
Or 93?
It was 90-something. It was the most points ever scored in a game, ever in a postseason game for the longest time. God, I don't even want to think about it.
I remember watching that game. They were playing Buffalo. It was snowing. And I remember watching that game going, oh, I feel bad for the sucker who's playing Le'Veon Bell today. And then realizing that it was you getting smacked around by 100 points in the over 100 points, I think, in the conference final. No, this is going to be an awesome game. Really, I think we both have it projected really close. The projections have it really close, with Billy a 2-point favorite as of the most recent update. I have it 300 to 281 in your favor, so a 19-point spread in your favor. But Patrick, you have a different outcome.
I do.
What do you have?
I'm just going off history here, man. I stuck in the playoffs. I'm picking Billy in this one, in a very close one, in a low-scoring game, 270 to 264 in a 6-point spread. I'm not really crazy about any of my matchups. Carson Wentz is starting to fall off. I don't know what's going on with the Eagles. Billy's, I don't really like any of Billy's matchups either. So I think it's going to be a relatively low-scoring week for both of us. I think, but again, I still think it's going to be close. But I'm going to take, if I was a betting man, and unbiased, I would take Billy in this game.
All right. Well, at least you're being honest. And not many people would pick their opponent to beat them. So last playoff game, we've got Isaac and Jade. Isaac's in the 5th seed. Jade's in the 4th seed. We've heard a lot of crap about this in the text message chat, which I guess we'll talk about here a little later. But a lot of history for Jade. Isaac's made the playoffs every year he's been. So this is year 3 for him. He's never won more than 7 games, though. And so he finds himself in the wild card spot, but probably one of the strongest 5th seeds I've ever seen. But Jade has history on his side. So you were telling me something about his wild card record.
So let's start out with this. So we all know Jade throws it up all the time, the only Hall of Fame owner in the league. All right, sure. I can see that. All right, but here's the thing. Jade has never, ever in the 8 years he's been in the league has never had a bye. He's been to 3 straight championships. He's won 2 of the 3. The man's never had a bye. He's always been a wild card team. He's always been a team that got crap in the playoffs, that was disrespected, that no one thought was going to be any good even before the season started. The man is 5-0 in the wild card. He's never lost in the wild card round. It's crazy. I mean, when I think of a clutch fantasy owner, it's Jade. Say what you want about him this year. He's 5-7, one of the lowest scoring teams in the conference and in the league for that matter. But at the end of the day, the man is he's clutch, and when it matters most, he does have favorite. I mean, history does favor Jade because of this. Isaac's only won 1 playoff game. That was last year against Billy. The year before that, he lost to you, Jameson, like we talked about earlier. Was that the wild card round that Isaac lost to you in?
Yes, it was. I was the 3 seed that year. He was the 6 seed. It was his first year in the league, and I beat him in the wild card round by like 30 points or something like that. I don't remember exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think with that said, though, our spread and our picks don't really go with what I just said. Jameson, I'll let you start it off.
Yeah, I was gonna say all of that talk, hyping up Jade, undefeated in the wild card round, always disrespected, always shows up. With that being said, we're predicting Isaac to stomp him into the ground. I've got it a 56-point spread. Isaac 281, Jade 225. Again, I went player by player, so this isn't like just random stuff I made up. This is just what it came out to be. Isaac should run away with this one. I mean, I was joking with him that this is a warm-up game to go straight to John in the divisional round.
He got a bye week.
He basically got a bye week. And no disrespect to Jay, but the metrics, man, like that's what I look at. I look at numbers and metrics. I don't care about your record. I don't care about your rivalry. I don't care about any of that crap. I want to see numbers. And Jay just doesn't have any of that to support him. And Isaac has all of that to support him. So that's where I'm leaning. And that's what my projections bear out to. So you're kind of in the same boat.
I'm in the same boat, but I'm favoring Isaac even more heavily than you are. 309 and 220 is what I've got. Jade's team lately, man, is struggling to get over 200. I think 220 is giving him some. Isaac, I think he gets back to where he left off for last week's disappointing loss. I think he breaks 300 this week. I like some of his matchups. But I just, after all that, but maybe this is what Jay needs. Maybe he needs us to disrespect him more, talk about how he can't do this and can't do that, and maybe he surprises us. I'm sure my dad is hoping that, that Jade does win this, but if I'm my dad, I'd much rather be playing Jade in the divisional round compared to Isaac if I had a choice.
Yeah, no, yeah, definitely, definitely. Yeah, so finally we've got Bryson and Cameron.
What?
What that does not deserve a what. I don't even want to hear that come out of your mouth. What? Yeah, what? As in, why do we even have to talk about this game? So, by the way, I know we just released a podcast, so people haven't really listened to it yet. But I still want more of those. Started from the Bryson, now we're here. Hashtags. So send those to me. McDonald's IU Bowl. Cameron Bryson. The metrics weren't great for Bryson. Cameron's, they were just kind of hit or miss. What do you? Bryson's first year in the league, not a lot of history for him. Cameron, this is his second year out of 3, finding himself at the bottom of the standings at the end of the year. Is there anything else we can really add to this one?
So yeah, I mean, yeah, they've only played each other once. Obviously, Cameron beat him week 6, and just a total beatdown, 316 to 233. Surprisingly, I don't think it's going to be that big of a spread this go around. I think we may have seen something of a harbinger of things to come for Bryson in the future this past week. I'm not saying his team's legit or anything, but I'm saying he's got some guys on his team that have shown that they can ball out when they're given the opportunity. I look at Bryson's team. Sure, he very rarely gets to even 230. But again, I think last week showed us Bryson has some guys that have potential to go off any given week. I mean, I get that anyone can go off any week in fantasy football. I know Cameron's irritated the fact that he's even playing for basically a Happy Meal and a toy of that. Bryson, on the other hand, Bryson's probably mentally already checked out. I mean, maybe he doesn't even know he's playing for a bowl game right now, but he is. And I think we both kind of got the same similar projections going on, although I think you're a little bit more generous than I am towards Bryson.
Yeah, my projections bear out a 288-250 win for Cameron, so 38 points. Yours has a wider gap. You're 294, 237 is what you've got, it looks like.
Yeah.
So almost 60 points. So you're not predicting any close games this week, really.
No, not really. Not for this one at least.
Yeah.
I don't see it, but I kind of want to use this opportunity to talk about what's going on in the Elite 12 group chat right now. And if anyone's listening from the Top Shot, I'd be interested to see where your thoughts are on this. So Cameron in the group chat, which everyone listening in our conference already knows, Cameron's irritated for the fact that Jade's division is as weak as it is, and Jade's in the playoffs and Cameron's not. Although Cameron is the worst team in his division, so it doesn't matter because I wouldn't have made the playoffs anyways. But Cameron's arguing that we should realign the divisions, break that division up, and kind of balance out the competition a little bit more. Which, if you're thinking 2018, sure, that makes sense. But let's not kid ourselves here. Bryson's sitting there with the first overall pick in the draft. Mike almost made the playoffs, even though he was at 5 and finished the season at 5-7. Really, his points for weren't as bad as some people think they were. Bryson, we talked about it in our rebuild. Bryson has some guys in that team that he can use as total studs and keep for practically nothing. He could turn around to trade away Tom Brady for something else that he could use. I'm not the type of guy that wants to go jump and make a change after 1 year. Sure, if it bears out to where we've got 2 years in a row where that division is as bad as it is, then I would consider it. This is just me talking. But I don't think that division – we've seen 1 year of that division being bad. right? I mean, Bryson's first year ever playing fantasy football. Jade's first year playing with IDP players. Mike was just in the playoffs last year, guys. I mean, again, let's not kid ourselves here. Mike and Bryson both have a chance to totally rebuild and come back even stronger next year. Jade's team, although it's scored really bad, he's going to get Le'Veon Bell for the 18th round pick and have James Conner. I want everyone to think about that real quick. Le'Veon Bell, James Conner on the same team. Like, that should scare anyone right there. So, I don't know. I'm not the type of guy who's wanting to jump the gun on that one. I think we should take some time. Let's see what happens next year.
No, yeah, I agree. There can't be any sort of conference alignment. Kyle was the conference champion the year before, won 5 games. Cameron was in it, won 5 games. Mike was in the playoffs last year, won 5 games. You never know what's going to happen year to year. And also, I mean, you can't be saying you deserve to be in the playoffs if you only won 5 games. I mean, if you won 8 games and missed it, you have a legitimate argument. But to win 5 games, that's not good enough. And also, I'm not a fan of realigning divisions just because people want easier matchups. I heard this from a few people this summer. I'm not going to say names or anything, but like, I want this guy. It's like, man, play your division. If you think you're that good of a player and you want to win, prove it. Draft some players and win, man. Don't try to get easy guys in your division just because you think that that's what's going to help you like move forward. So yeah, there's not a whole lot of an argument there. I mean, on one level, I guess it kind of sucks to see a 5-win team in, but on the other level, I mean, who deserves it more? I mean, Mike, statistically, he's the one that should be upset. He had a better season than Jade, almost all the way around. He just lost the head-to-head matchups. I mean, Kyle doesn't deserve it. Tyler doesn't deserve it. Cameron doesn't deserve it. Bryson doesn't deserve it. Peyton does. I mean, there isn't anyone there that does deserve it. So. Yeah. You just got to kind of play it out, see what happens next year. But all right, cool. So bracket preview real quick because we're really running out of time. Do you want to do that or do you want to publish that? What do you think is the best thing to do?
Well, there's not a whole lot for us to talk about in any ways. I mean, it is what it is. So, I mean, we can just run through it really quick because, again, there's not much to say.
Well, we've already done the first round.
Yeah, we've already done the first round. We literally have only a couple of games to talk about left. So, James, I'll let you go ahead and throw yours out.
Yeah, I'll just run through the Elite 12 real quick first and then the top shot. So, I have you beating Billy, of course, you and me in the divisional round, me beating you going to the conference final. John and Isaac in the divisional round, Isaac beating John and going to the conference final. And then I have Isaac beating me in the conference final just because my projections bear that out, and I hate it. But that's what it is. So Isaac in the championship against we had Daquan and Hunter facing, and then Hunter beating him. Mufali and Cody facing, and Mufali beating Cody. Mufali beating Hunter to advance to the championship game against Isaac. And I have Mufali beating Isaac in the championship game. So that is how my bracket bears out.
So here's mine. Mine's a little bit more wild than yours is, I feel like. To some people, at least, it might come out to be. So I've got, obviously, Billy beating myself in our conference, Billy playing you. I think you will move on to the conference championship. Now, let me back up a little bit here. Again, obviously, I think Isaac's going to beat Jade. But here's where I differ than you. And it's going to piss Isaac off, and I love it so much. I'm going to go ahead and stick to my guns here. I think my dad's going to beat him in a close game. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he's going to put a beat down on with Christian McCaffrey, but I think it'll be a close game. I think my dad will end up playing you, 1 and 2 seed, playing each other in the conference championship, just like we had last year in our conference. And let me jump over to the top shot. Is leave a little suspense for you, Jameson.
Thanks.
I've got obviously Daquan winning against Colby in a close game, playing against Hunter. But I have Daquan pulling an upset against Hunter in the divisional round and going to the conference championship. Then the wild card, like we said earlier, we've got Cody winning that game. Cody versus Mufali. I'm going to pick Cody over Mufali in a very close game. I've got 2 wild card teams playing each other in the conference championship. I know that is ballsy, but I'm going with it. And I've got Cody winning that game by a wide margin, playing in our conference, you ready for this?
Yeah, I'm ready.
I'm going to pick you over my dad in that one. I know.
Oh, wow. Cool.
And here's the reason. I think that I was just looking at it earlier. Hang on. Sorry. I don't have the schedules up in front of me for my dad, whose players are playing that week. Dang it. Oh, well. Anyways, I'll get more into that late when we get to the division round of the playoffs anyways. There was a reason behind that madness when I was looking at the matchups. But, again, that's who I've got, you versus Cody. 5th seed versus 1st seed. I think Cody ends up winning that. sorry, Elite 12. Sorry, everyone. But that's my
way to get me all the way there and then break my spirit. So yeah. I guess it happens though. But yeah, so that's what we got there. Patrick, awesome show, man. But with that, we are done because we went a little over. So sorry for that, guys. We'll be back next week to break down some of what happened in week 13 and to project forward into week 14. And again, please text me. Started from the Bryson hour here and get in there because I haven't seen any yet as of the time that we make this recording.
I'm offering you a $20 gift card. Like, people should be going crazy right now.
Yeah, well, we did release the podcast a few hours ago, so hopefully people are listening to it now or in the morning and going to do that. But with that, we are done, and we will see you guys next week. Good luck.